Parliamentary system. So, parliamentary system is given in the Constitution under Article 74 and 75 for the centre, and for the state it is given under Article 163 and 164. The parliamentary system is also called as the cabinet form of government. Why cabinet? This name is given by Ivory Jennings because cabinet is the nuclear power. Cabinet is the real executive. Further, parliamentary system is also called as the responsible government, Westminster government, mainly because this is taken from Britain that we will discuss later on, and also called as the prime ministerial government. It is said by Crossman and Mackintosh since prime minister is primus inter pares, that is first among the equals. Furthermore, now let us in detail discuss about the parliamentary system, its features, the essential features, the non-essential features, and why we have adopted the parliamentary system. Then in the adoption, we will see that we had the familiarity with the system because we were under the Britain, and then we will see that what is the distinction between the Indian and the British parliamentary systems model. So, let's begin with the features. Talking about features, the essential features are nominal and executives. So, the real and nominal executives are different in parliamentary system where nominal head is basically the president, that is de jure nominal head, or titular executive, while this titular basically word came from title. On the other hand, we have prime minister who is de facto executive. I repeat, de facto executive. That is, in fact, in actual, the executive is prime minister, and de jure, that is titular executive, that is only with title, that is nominal head, is president. Next, majority rule party. Not necessary it has to be more than 51%, it just has to be the majority. It could be any percentage but more amongst all. Next, we have collective responsibility, that is of executive to legislature. Next, we have political homogeneity in coalition ministers. In coalition, ministers are to be appointed as per the consensus. Next, we have double membership, that people are having double membership in legislature and executive. This basically means that there is fusion of power and no separation of power. This is an essential feature because it is different from what is given in the presidential government, as it is evident in USA that there is a huge and a clear cut separation between legislature and executive. This kind of system is not there in case of legislature and executive under the parliamentary system. Next, we have PM as the leader. Now, regarding the dissolution of lower house, only executives enjoy right to dissolve legislature. And which executive? That is Prime Minister, de facto, and President, de jure. Next is secrecy, that, for example, is the oath and affirmation of secrecy by the President. Next is dual executive. Talking further about the non-essential features, we have fixed tenure of the executive. In India, we have fixed tenure of 5 years, but that is not necessary in case of any presidential form of government. Next is vice president as the chairman of upper house. This system or feature is also followed in India, but it is also not essential. Next, what is the reason that why we have adopted? Number one, as I already said, is the familiarity with the system, because We were under the British control, and the British also exercised this parliamentary system of the government. Next, the preference to more responsibility. In British system, there is more responsibility and less stability, and in American system, there is less responsibility and more stability. As you can also see that in USA, the citizens are fairly not satisfied with the kind of actions Mr. Trump is doing. But since the government is less responsible and it has to be more stable, that's why there is lack of accountability. Next is to avoid legislative and executive conflict for an infant democracy as of India. This was mainly the idea that was prevalent in the constitution makers at the time of making of the constitution. Next, we have nature of Indian society. As it is already very diverse and very vast, that's why Swarna Singh Committee in 1975 uphold the continuation of parliamentary system. Yes, mind you, which particular committee? Swarna Singh Committee. Next, we have the distinction. What distincts between the parliamentary system in India and in Britain? In India, there is republican system. What is republican system? That means the major executive leader is not hierarchical and is democratic. That means the real executive will be elected, will be selected by the people of the country. On the other hand, in monarch system, that real executive is hierarchy, is hierarchical. That's why. Next, in republican system, parliament is not supreme because we have the written constitution and the federal system. Judicial review is also there, and the fundamental rights, which are part of the basic structure, is also there. While on the monarch system, there is the doctrine of sovereignty of parliament. Britain has no written constitution. It talks about the sovereignty of the parliament. What parliament says, the rules become. Next, in India, in republican system, prime minister can be of either house. In Britain, the prime minister has to be of member of House of People. I repeat, it has to be from the member of House of Peoples only. Next, minister, anyone up to 6 months, not required to countersign the official letter of House of State. While in monarchical system, the minister is only a MP, only an MP. And next, the legal responsibility of the minister will be there. Now, let me explain these points in detail because they can be confusing. Here it says that in republican system, the minister, anyone can be minister for up to 6 months. Why is it said so? Because in India there's a system that anyone could be appointed as minister, but that person has to basically should elect, get elected, get elected within 6 months. If you, as a minister who has been chosen a minister but not an MP, then you have to become the MP within 6 months. Otherwise, your ministership would be disbarred. Also, the ministers are required to countersign the official act of House of State. It says that whatever a minister action is taking, it has to be countersigned. That means the major legal responsibility, the word here is legal responsibility, lies on the one who has countersigned, that is the president, and not the minister. On the other hand, in Britain, what happens? Minister can only be the MP, and there is the legal responsibility of the actions of the minister. Next, in India, there is no shadow cabinet. On the other hand, in Britain, there is shadow cabinet that is appointed by the opposition. Now, on the contrary to the parliamentary system, we have the presidential government or the presidential system. This is also called as a fixed executive system because the executives here are fixed. It is prevalent in Brazil, Russia, Sri Lanka and USA. Here the power of House of State is equals to the House of Executive. President tenure is 4 years and Congress cannot remove it. Congress cannot remove it, and that is the main reason that even though the Trump is basically spoiling the country's future, but still the Congress cannot be able to remove it because the president's tenure is permanent and that is of 4 years. Although there are some provisions by which the president can be removed, but they are very hard to be removed. Next is the kitchen cabinet is there, that a president can appoint a particular member to form a kitchen cabinet that basically assist them in taking any particular decision. Next we have president and his secretaries. Congresco not accountable, not attend the session. The president and his or her secretaries are not accountable and may or may not attend the sessions of Congress. This is something really, really important that we should remember. Next, we have strict separation of power, as I have already discussed with respect to this particular point, that there is no separation of power between the legislature and executive. On the other hand, there is a strict separation of power. Here, single executive is there. There is no distinction between the prime minister and the president as such, and there is single membership, that if you are a member of legislature then you cannot be the member of executive at the same time. So that is it about all of the features of parliamentary system, reasons why we have adopted it, and the distinction between the India's parliamentary system and Britain's parliamentary system. Then we have seen the distinctions between the parliamentary system and the presidential system. Now, because our main topic was the parliamentary system, let us now see some merits and demerits of the parliamentary system. The first merit is harmony between the legislature and executive, very evident, very common, very basic. Responsible government is there. The government has to be accountable, and there are various means by which the constitution ensures the accountability of the government in the parliamentary system. That is by questioning hours, discussions, adjournment motions, and no confidence motions. Next, we have the prevent despotism. What is despotism? That means the exercise of absolute power in cruel way. The exercise of absolute power in cruel way. So the parliamentary system is mainly helped in preventing the despotism. Next, that is ready alternative government. What we are talking about here? We are talking about the opposition over here. There is wide representation because in parliamentary system that every person are having a representation and a say in the parliament in decision making. Now, talking about the demerits, it is unstable. No confidence motion, although, is helping to make the government accountable and responsible, but it is also aiding in making the situation and the government unstable. There is no continuity of policies. One government start a policy, when the other government arrives, that policy may get disbarred. Next, there is dictatorship of cabinet. Very simple and easy to understand. That is against the separation of powers. because cabinet is being hyphen that joins both executive and legislature. Because see, cabinet is executive mainly, and the cabinet is mainly being chosen from the legislature. So where is the separation of power? So this was the point. Next, government by amateurs. Maybe people who are getting elected are good at convincing the people, creating an impact, but when it's about taking the decision or making the policies, they might not be the best fit for that. So that's why it says that it is a government by amateurs. With that note, that is it for today.